Well, good day, everyone, and thank you for coming back to the next video. Guys, in my last video I did the other day, I called it Introduction to the Revelation chapter 6 Seals and Timeline at the End. And in there, I asked you guys, if you really want to dig deep into this, I think it's good to download these documents, which are not something I just written. I mean, they're just the Bible scriptures and chapters broken out and organized in a way where you can see the commonality between all of them, where they resemble the seals of Revelation chapter 6. So I have to ask the question. So I know that many people have read the book of Revelation. You know, end time watchmen, they scour over this book, and there's folks that get their PhD degrees over this. So, but when you read Revelation chapter 6, it contains 17 verses. Okay, and the sixth seal itself, and this video is going to be about the sixth seal. It's 5 verses. I think it's 5. Is that 5 or 6? Whatever, 12 to 17. I think it's 6. So when you look at that, how many times has anybody taken the effort to go and search this out in the rest of the Bible? And we can do it now. It's very easily done. It's not anything that's difficult. So let me go to the document I created that you guys can download, and I'm going to go back to the introduction in a minute. But all I'm doing here is I'm taking the Revelation chapter 6 sixth seal, which it has the following 8 characteristics. You can see here. The sun becomes black, darkness, and the sun darkened. The moon does not give its light. Stars fall from the earth, asteroids, meteors, hail, something like it. It does it when the fig tree sheds its winter fruit. A fig tree has 2 seasons. I'm sorry. It has there's fruit that hangs onto the tree through the winter time, and it falls off in the early spring, late winter. That's called winter fruit for a fig tree. It's these huge figs. And then the sky vanishes, rolls up like a scroll. That means the heavens are shaking violently. Every mountain is moved out of its place. It means the entire earth is shaking. Rich people, kings, the military, they all run to the caves, yelling and screaming, "Fall on us and hide us from the Lord's wrath." So if you just do a simple search like this, you just go to any Bible gateway and you say sun, moon, dark, and you can see right here, here's the sixth seal. It's in my document. This is where I got it from. It wasn't some magical thing that I just read the Bible for 10 years and found it. It took 10 minutes. I mean, Ecclesiastes 2, the sun, the moon that are not given light. Isaiah 13:10. This is straight out of my document. Every single one of these is in my document. Isaiah 13, Ezekiel 32, Joel. But there's a couple of them. You have to. Sometimes you got to type in here, heavens shake. That's one of them. Isaiah 13, the heavens are shaking. Haggai 2:6. So that's how I'm able to do this. It's not anything that's terribly complicated. So looking at the sixth seal, you can see that these are the 9 areas, and there's got to be more that I'm going to describe in detail in this video. And there's 9 of them: Matthew 24, Luke 23, Ecclesiastes. Now, I've highlighted in this blue references to the timing. And so it really appears the sixth seal is going to happen at the time of Purim, believe it or not. Late winter, early spring. And Ezekiel 32 tells us that. Ezekiel 32 was written before the events of Purim ever occurred, but yet the prophet received the word and the vision on the 15th day of the 12th month, which happens to be Purim. So the Bible was looking ahead at this day of vengeance that the Lord is going to do. So let me go ahead and start with the sixth seal at the beginning. So if my opening introduction here is just noting the fact that the sixth seal is in the book of Revelation chapter 6. It's the beginning of 21 judgment events. I'm sorry, it's the 6th of 21 judgment events. And some of the folks in churches, our church friends, they like to think that the events in the book of Revelation are figurative. They're not something that's going to actually happen um, in real life one day. So the question is, do these events describe, are they literal events that are coming to the earth? Are they some type of literal or allegorical fulfillment? Like it's going to happen in the spirit realm, and people with flesh and blood on earth won't know about it. Something like that. And that's where I sort of get a little bit confused how people can read the Bible and come to that conclusion. But that's what they seem to do. So what I noted here in the beginning was that in Matthew 24, verse 29, Jesus is defining in the Olivet Discourse, he is describing exactly the same. This is what Jesus is saying is going to happen immediately after the tribulation of those days. The sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then he says, you'll see the sign of the Son of Man, and the Son of Man rides the clouds. So the Son of Man rides the clouds at the sixth seal. So you can see the words of Jesus for the Olivet Discourse, which is the sixth seal. And then you can see the words of John, which is the sixth seal, which Jesus obviously gave John that vision. But the point here is, those who are wanting to nullify the words of John in his vision, are they going to nullify the words of Jesus in his Olivet Discourse? So if a denomination is more than willing to refer to the book of Revelation as this mystical, allegorical, figurative fairy tale of a set of events that will maybe come to the world one day, or they somehow were fulfilled in 70 AD, where Rome attacked Jerusalem, that's what I've heard before, which I have to say is utterly ridiculous, but that's okay. They're still our church friends. Okay, so I just wanted to make light of Jesus and John both speaking about the sixth seal and noting that Jesus rides the clouds at the sixth seal, and he sends out his angels to gather his elect harvest workers at the sixth seal. Okay. All right, so this next diagram here, with this sort of scribbling of me doing this, is I'm trying to show how Jesus describes the sixth seal in Matthew 24, verse 29, and that it's this, you can see the red text I have, this red outline here, is the sixth seal. You can see the connection. I said it's great tribulation. Now this is what Jesus gives us a clue what happens before the sixth seal. Jesus says immediately after the tribulation, the sixth seal occurs. So therefore, the tribulation would be the sixth seal. If I use the lingo you learn when you're in logic class, you'd say ergo, but I don't even know what that means. But anyway, so immediately after the first five seals, the sixth seal occurs. And this gives us a new picture of what Jesus is talking about, the way that Jesus defines the tribulation. Not how we define it, how we used to, at least I used to. The way that everybody used to, well, they still do define the tribulation is, they say the tribulation is a 7-year period, and immediately at the end of the tribulation, Jesus sends out. Well, Jesus is clearly saying the first 5 seals are the tribulation. That's what he says here. So, okay. Let me jump back into my document and kind of go through the meat and potatoes of what the sixth seal is. And guys, you guys can download this document and you can read it the same as I do and come to similar conclusions if you like. But I'm going to try to go through it rather quickly and just explain that these 8 characteristics are found all through the Old Testament. The sun becoming black, the whole moon becoming like blood, not giving its light. The stars will fall from heaven to earth. So this star falling is only really a one-time thing. It only occurs at the sixth seal. And you see it a little bit in Revelation 12, which is referring to the sixth seal. Revelation 12 is sort of an overview of all of this. The timing, when a fig tree sheds its winter fruit. The sky is going to be shaking rolling up like a scroll. Every mountain and island removed from its place. Everything's going to be shaken on the entire planet. And then the kings and the rich and the powerful. Have you seen what's going on in D.C. lately? It's kind of like they're emptying out themselves. Buses leaving, and are they even still there? Are they running for the hills? You've heard that phrase, run for the hills. That's where this comes from. And of course, the Lord's wrath comes. So here's that summary again. Matthew 24, Luke 23 mentions the same thing about this fall on us. And Jesus says, society, they will say that it's good, that it's a blessing for a woman to not be pregnant or not be nursing a baby. Why would society say, boy, the women who aren't pregnant and who aren't nursing a baby, boy, oh boy, those women are sure lucky, because the women who are pregnant and who are nursing a baby, something dreadful must have happened. And in Matthew 24, Jesus says how dreadful it will be for pregnant women and nursing mothers in those days. Why can we deduce why the Lord would be saying this, or why society would be saying this? Well, maybe because these pregnant women and these nursing mothers had a supernatural event occur that has never happened in all of time, which is chronicled in the unfulfilled prophecy of Hosea 9. Hosea 9, the prophet says, give them, O Lord. What will you give these people, these non-believers, these wicked? And the Lord himself, not a modern day prophet, not me, but the Lord speaks and says, give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. So this is what referred to as a rapture of the little ones. Even he's going to rapture the little ones right out of the bellies of the pregnant mothers, those who aren't believers. So that happens around the time of the sixth seal, according to Jesus. Ecclesiastes 12, surprisingly, which I never knew, Solomon is describing the events leading up to the sixth seal, which I would call the tribulation, and he provides this timing to be late winter, early spring. Isaiah 13, the bride and 144,000, they are being called and summoned while Babylon is being destroyed, and the unbelievers are freaking out, literally going to the bathroom in their pants. That's what it says. Their loins give way. Now that might be Nahum, where their loins give way, but it's all the same event. Babylon will be destroyed like Sodom was destroyed. Ancient Babylon was not destroyed like Sodom, but modern day Babylon will be destroyed. Okay. I think I can't even spell Sodom right. It doesn't have a spell check here, so I don't know. Okay, Isaiah 24. This is when the Planet X flyby is occurring. Remember, this is all the sixth seal here. Okay, Isaiah 24. The earth is torn apart, violently shaking. Isaiah 28. Isaiah 28 describes this event and says there's vomit on every table. It's like everybody on the planet is going to be seasick all at once. It's called motion sickness. So the earth is torn apart. The earth is violently shaking, broken while the fallen angels. This is new information for us to consider here. While the fallen angels and the kings of the earth are gathered together and put in a pit of hell, awaiting judgment at the sixth seal. Isaiah 34. It's the day of the great slaughter comes. That's when it comes. And the Lord, and he, I just put he, it's really Jesus. And Jesus punishes the leaders of the earth. He has a day of vengeance and a year of recompense, payback punishment, at the sixth seal. Ezekiel 32 describes this event with a little bit more detail. He says, basically on the first day of the month of Adar, which is late winter, early spring, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is destroyed. His body is strewn about on the mountains, and the blood just soaks out into the grass, into the things. And then 2 weeks later, and by 2 weeks later, on the 15th day of the 12th month, which happens to be Purim, before Purim actually happened, according to the prophet Ezekiel, as he wrote his prophecy 2,600 years ago. On this day, on Purim, Ezekiel records that Pharaoh and 5 other earthly kings with their armies are present in the pit of hell, Sheol, awaiting punishment. But the odd thing is, the king of Babylon is not there. For some reason, the king of Babylon must get punished later. It's kind of a strange thing, and you can see it right there in Ezekiel 32. Okay, Joel 2. The Lord's army, the 144,000, is marching throughout the entire earth, gathering prey, stealing them like a thief. That's harvest working. All the while, the earthly weapons cannot halt them. Then the Lord utters his voice before his army. Joel chapter 3. The Lord calls for all the earthly armies of the world to come down to the valley of Jehoshaphat to be judged, and there he will avenge all their wicked deeds for spilling innocent blood. This is for Edom and Egypt. Okay. So let me jump in here real quick and go through some of this. I'm not going to go through this completely because you can download the document and read this for yourself. But here in Ecclesiastes 12, the last chapter, this is King Solomon writing these words of wisdom where he says this. He says, before the evil days of the sixth seal come, and people will say, I have no pleasure in them, before the sun and the light and the moon and stars are darkened. So before the sixth seal, what's the time before the sixth seal? The first seal, the second seal, the third, fourth, fifth. These are the times before the sixth seal. Solomon says this here. He says, they are afraid of what's on high. What's in high? It's signs in the sky. Terrors in the way. The almond tree blossoms. That's late winter. The grasshopper drags itself along. This is another one of these things that the Lord just kind of squeezes in here. If you look at the life of a grasshopper, there's 3 stages to their life. They're eggs. They're obviously an egg, like a larvae. They become a nymph, which has no wings. It looks like a grasshopper, but it can't fly. It just crawls along. And that occurs in the late spring. So the grasshopper's eggs they typically will hatch in the late winter. And then in the early spring, they're this nymph with no wings. The grasshopper drags itself along. It walks, it can't fly. And then sometime in late spring, it sprouts wings and flies away. So we got the timing again. The almond tree blossoming and the grasshopper dragging itself along without any wings is the same time. The desire fails because man is going to his eternal home while the mourners go about the streets. Well, this man obviously is probably faithful folks who've been taken, raptured, and the left behind are mourning in the streets. Then the dust returns to the earth as it was, with lots of people dying, dust to dust. And then the Spirit returns to God. The Holy Spirit, the restrainer, taken away. 2 Thessalonians 2:7. So we can learn so much from just reading this chapter in Ecclesiastes, what it's going to be like right before the sixth seal occurs. Isaiah 13 is the judgment on Babylon at the sixth seal. Babylon will be destroyed here. But look what happens before that. The Lord's going to command his consecrated ones, the holy bride, and summon his mighty men to execute my anger, his proudly exalted ones. Some people will think these are some type of demonic army. This is a godly army that actually worships the Lord. It says it. If you read the King James Version, I think it does. Anyway, it's a footnote here in the ESV. And you can see that all hands will be feeble. Every human heart will melt. They will be pangs and agony will seize them. They'll be like a woman in labor, aghast. They'll be looking aghast at one another. Their faces will be aflame. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel wrath, fierce anger, to make the land a desolation and to destroy the sinners in it. Here's the sixth seal description. For the stars of the heavens and the constellations will not give their light. The sun will be dark at its rising. The moon will shed it. I will punish the world for its evil, the wicked for their iniquity. God's wrath begins. Then he's going to shake the heavens. Therefore I will make the heavens tremble. The earth will be shaken out of its place. This is quintessential sixth seal language. At the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger. And Babylon will be destroyed, just like Sodom and Gomorrah. So there we go. Isaiah 13 is the sixth seal. Plain as day. And look what happens. the bride and 144,000 are called and summoned upon. Isaiah 24. This, I think, is a description of the Planet X Passover. The earth is utterly broken. The earth is split open. The earth is violently shaking. Motion sickness, Isaiah 28. Vomit all over the place. The earth staggers like a drunken man. On that day, this is the time that the Lord is going to punish the host of heaven, in heaven, that's the fallen angels, and the kings of the earth. They will be gathered together as prisoners in a pit. They'll be shut up like a pit, shut up in prison. The moon will be confounded, and the sun will be ashamed. And the Lord, and the glory of the Lord will be before his elders, the 24 elders of Revelation. Okay, that's Isaiah 24. All the kings of the earth shut up in a pit, in hell, at the sixth seal. Okay, Isaiah 34. This is the wrath of the Lamb. Jesus will literally slaughter all the kings of the earth over the course, either a single day or over the course of a year. Let's read what it says. For the Lord is enraged against all the nations, furious against all their hosts. That would be the demonic leaders. He has devoted to them to destruction. He has given them over to slaughter at the sixth seal. Why? All the host of heaven shall rot away, and the skies shall roll up like a scroll. That's sixth seal. All the host shall fall, all the leaves from the vine, like leaves falling from a fig tree. There's that fig tree, fruit, leaves, it's all the same thing. For my sword, this is the Lord speaking, that would be Jesus, has drunk its fill in the heavens. Okay? The Lord has a sword, sated with blood, gorged with fat, with the blood of the lambs and the goats, with the fat of the kidneys of the rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice at Basra. Go read Isaiah 63, same thing. A great slaughter in the land of Edom. For the Lord has a day of vengeance. What day of the year would that be? Well, we see by Purim in Ezekiel 32 that it happens to be on the 15th day of the 12th month, which is Purim. And a year of recompense for the cause of the bride of Zion. So there's a year of recompense. This aligns with the 1 year warning that the woman is given in Isaiah 32. So all of this is happening. These people are being gathered up, taken to the pit of hell at the sixth seal. Ezekiel 32. This is where we learn that. And on the first day of the 12th month, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who considers himself to be pretty much a lion of the nations, a dragon of the seas. And the Lord says, I'll throw my net over him. I'll haul him up in a drag net. I will cause the birds of heavens to settle on him, to gorge on him. Strew his flesh upon the mountains, fill the valleys with his carcass. When I blot out, I will cover the heavens and make the stars dark. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not give its light. It's a sixth seal. And then he'll brandish his sword, would be Jesus. The sword of the king of Babylon, this is where it gets a little confusing, shall come upon you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Who could be the king of Babylon? That's going to come to Pharaoh, king of Egypt. I say Egypt is secular USA. When he makes the land of Egypt desolate. Okay, and you come down here a little further in Ezekiel 32. And then we see by the date of Purim, Ezekiel has a vision, 15th day of the 9th month. The multitude of Egypt is sent down along with the daughters of her majestic nations to the underworld, to the pit of hell. Go down and be laid to rest with the uncircumcised. So Egypt is delivered to the sword, drug away all her multitudes, the mighty chiefs. Could this be the secular USA leaders, the Democrats? I don't know. Most of the Republicans? I don't know. Just a guess. Down to the midst of Sheol. And let's see who's already down. Oh, these are all slain by that sword again. Remember, there's a sword that comes out of the mouth of the Lord. The Assyrian is there in all her company, fallen by the sword. Elam is there. Meshach and Tubal is there. Edom is there, all her kings, killed by the sword. The princes of the north and the Sidonians. Is that the Russians? And then, of course, Pharaoh's there, and Pharaoh is comforted by seeing all these other people down in the pit of hell at the sixth seal. Misery loves company. Joel chapter 2, a day of darkness, a day of gloom. When the earth shakes before them, the heavens tremble, the sun and the moon are darkened. So Joel chapter 2 is the sixth seal. And what we see here is we see that there is an army, the Lord's army, a powerful army. Like warriors, they charge, they march, they don't jostle one another, they burst through, they climb up into the houses like a thief. They're stealing little ones. Okay? The Lord utters his voice before his army. Not the satanic army, his army. For his camp is exceedingly great. He who executes his word is powerful. For the day of the Lord is great and awesome. Who can endure it? Joel chapter 3 picks up where he left off. Consecrate for war. Stir up the mighty men. Beat your plowshares, your harvesting equipment, into warrior equipment. Let the weak say, I am a warrior. Then it's hasten and tell the surrounding nations to gather themselves down at the valley of Jehoshaphat, where the Lord's going to sit in judgment of them. When the sun and the moon are darkened, when the stars withdraw from their shining, when the heavens and earth quake. So, okay, I think I've beat that dead horse enough. So guys, you can download this document. I mean, there's a lot of information to gather here. Tons of it. It's almost overwhelming. But I guess the point here is all of this gathering down to the pit of hell. What do we see in the book of Revelation at some point? Let me go here to the book of Revelation. This is sort of what kind of came to being here. So if you go to Revelation chapter 6, and we see all of here's the sixth seal. We just read about it in 9 different areas in the Bible. When we go, so let's assume that all these kings and all these people are taken down to the pit of hell. And then we have a bunch of folks who are sealed, who are going to work the harvest during the first 3.5 years. We have a grand party that's in heaven right after all this. Revelation 7, a great multitude from every nation, holding palms. You know, Palm Sunday is early spring, which is after the late winter sixth seal. You go to Revelation chapter 8. We have the trumpet judgments where a third of the trees, can you imagine? Look outside right now. A third of the trees are burned up. Can you imagine on the entire earth what would cause a third of the trees on the planet to be burned up? And all of the green grass burned up. Has that ever happened in the past that we know of? After this was, this book was written in 96 AD. The second angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sea became blood, and all the living creatures died. You guys know this stuff. So when we get over to Revelation 9, the fifth trumpet, remember all those people that are in the pit of hell? All those just down to Ezekiel 32, all those people that are in the pit of hell here in Ezekiel 32, this group of them and all their armies, the Assyrian, Elam, Meshach and Tubal, Edom, the princes of the north, the Sidonians, Pharaoh and his army are all down there. It's actually 6 earthly leaders, 6 of them with all their armies in the pit of hell. And we come to Revelation 9, and there's this great star that appears that has a key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. So what appears to me is at the beginning of the 7 years, the Lord allows an angel to go down and let all these people back out on the earth. And they're going to come out and torment these folks for 5 months. And out of this group, there's going to be one of these kings, we don't know which one of these kings that was killed, that had a head wound, is going to be brought back to life. And here it is right here. Yeah. So one of those kings that was in the pit of hell, along with all the other ones, one of its heads seemed to have a mortal head wound, but its mortal head wound was healed. And it was, let's see here, where's the first piece of returns? Yeah. And so that image of the beast that they're going to be worshiping, this beast that was wounded by the sword, yet lived. Okay, so we know that the first beast of the book of Revelation is going to get a head wound. And I actually have a Bible study here that talks about that. Yeah. Jesus kills the antichrist at the gathering of the believers. When you read all this stuff, when you read these verses and chapters from 2 Thessalonians, Jesus kills the man of lawlessness with the breath of his mouth. That's that head wound with that sword that comes out of his mouth. Revelation 13, the beast is killed. He's got a mortal head wound. And Ezekiel 32 tells us that he's probably one of those earthly leaders that gets thrown down to the pit of hell, that's let out of the pit in Revelation 9 at the beginning of the 7 years. Let me show you my timeline. This might make a little bit of sense. Now, we have to remember that the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet at Revelation 19 are not killed. The beast and the false prophet are alive at Revelation 19 because the two of them are thrown alive into the lake of fire. Jesus does not kill them at his, quote, second coming in Revelation 19. But we see in Isaiah 14 that he's going to break the Assyrian. So if the beast is the Assyrian, trample him underfoot. If he's Leviathan, Isaiah 27, a Leviathan gets killed with a strong sword. Okay. Here's Isaiah 31, the Assyrian is fallen by the sword. Habakkuk 3, the Lord he crushes the head of the house of the wicked, Habakkuk 3, laying him bare from thigh to neck. So this short little summary is Jesus killing some leaders. One of them has to be the this is the Antichrist right here, this man of lawlessness, we think. So I think what I'm trying to get to is that the timeline that I'm going to show you right here is different than what many people think. Oh, that's I didn't want to show you that one. So here, I've gone over this a couple times. I'm not so sure how well it resonates, but when you read all of these chapters and these verses, to me, it's the only logical way to have all these pieces of the puzzle fit. That's why I'm saying that this dividing line right here, this is the beginning of the 7 years when this resurrected guy from the pit of hell that everybody marvels at, he starts this peace covenant thing and allows the Jews to build their third temple and to begin to sacrifice. Then, of course, when he gets to the middle of this 7 years, this Antichrist gentleman guy, whatever, he comes down and he proclaims himself to be God at this point, and he makes the Jews' life miserable. And so the Jewish woman is carried on 2 wings of an eagle for a time and half a time, which is the latter half of this 7 years. But the whole point here is, to the left of the 7 years, we have a 1-year warning for the woman, and we have a reference to a year of recompense. Here, let me go to my other chart here, guys. A year of recompense for Jesus. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and kind of mark on this one. Let me show you, compare and contrast the two timelines. Okay, so I'm sorry for all the words on here. I'm going to draw a blue line, a separation line, if you guys can bear with me. See this blue line? I'm separating the top and the bottom. I'm separating the top and the bottom. Okay. So everything above the blue line is the traditional timeline that many people, I think, come to. And it goes like this. Revelation chapter 6, the seals, begins right here at the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. Above the blue line. Ignore everything below the line, please. So he's a peace treaty. The antichrist rides the white horse, rolls into the world, does his peace treaty, and the tribulation begins. We have the seals, we got the trumpets, we got the locusts, we got the witnesses, we have all the stuff that everybody, we can see here. We got the middle of the abomination, and we got the 42 months, mark of the beast. The beast rules the world with absolute authority. We got the Revelation 16 bowls out here at the end. And we got Jesus showing up on a white horse in Revelation 19. And most people would say he kills the beast and the false prophet, which he doesn't, because they're alive into the lake of fire. So this is what traditionally is thought. We got to watch out for that Antichrist coming at the beginning. Now look down below the blue line. I have added this 1 year prior to the 7 years. I'm circling it in blue because Scripture points to it. Okay, so there's a year of recompense that Jesus has. A year where he's going to arrest all these people, throw them into the pit of hell. Isaiah 34. There's a 1 year warning, Isaiah 32, for the woman. And then there is a 49-week tribulation period for 2nd Baruch. That Baruch's 2nd Baruch, chapter 28, is a 49-week period that the Lord himself, God, calls the tribulation. And he describes all these seals and locusts and things like that. Let me go to that. 2nd Baruch. I've done this before, guys. I know you've seen this, me talk about this. So 2nd Baruch is here. Chapter 25 to 28 on the right. These events, these 12 events, you guys can download this, study this yourself. These line up with the seals and some of the trumpets. And then God tells him, God says, get your calculator out. He says, but at that time, whoever understands will be wise. For the measure and the calculation of that time of what? Tribulation and distress, is 2 parts. It's 2 parts. A week of 7 weeks. Well, a week is a group of 7, and then 7 sevens, and then weeks is 7 days. I know it's confusing. So you get your calculator out. You say 7 times 7 times 7 equals 343 days. That's how I see it. I see it that way only because Isaiah 34 has the Lord having a year of recompense for the cause of Zion, and the Isaiah 32 woman has a 1 year warning before she goes into the wilderness. We're going to talk about that on my next video. Okay. So back to my timeline just for a second. So we got a year of recompense where Jesus is going to arrest everybody, throw them down to the pit of hell. We have a 1 year warning for the woman, which hasn't happened yet. You yourselves listening to this video will be warning that woman. That's going to be our job. And then there's Baruch speaks about a 49-week period of tribulation, which is about a year. And then all of these things are going to occur, namely the 6th seal during that time. See, this is totally different than what we think. And then at the end of this 1 year, there is this resurrection. Revelation 9 is a resurrection. People are resurrecting out of the bottomless pit. That's what this is. And everybody who's down there was sent there by the Lord at the beginning. This is why I was always confused by this. You're reading Revelation 9. You've already had the trumpets and the seal judgments. You get to Revelation 10, and this is where John, the disciple John, the apostle John, he's given a scroll, and he has to eat it. And then the Lord tells him, first off, when he eats it, the scroll became bitter in his stomach, because that scroll told John that he's going to come back and he will prophesy again to many peoples, nations, and languages and kings. He'll be one of the two witnesses, in my opinion, and he'll have to die. That's why it's bitter. Ezekiel 3, he eats a scroll, and it's sweet in his mouth, but it's not bitter, because those who represent the Ezekiel watchmen won't be killed like this John witness. So John is told, John was told, you must prophesy again to many peoples, nations, and languages and kings. That didn't happen when John lived on the island of Patmos, 2,000 years ago. So then you get to Revelation 11, and here's where the witnesses are sent out to witness for 3.5 years, 1,260 days. But look down here. This makes no sense if you think about it, but it does for me at least. Right now that I see this 1 year event, it says this: then the seventh angel blew his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven. It says, the kingdom of the world, the kingdom of the earthly world, has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders sat up on their thrones. They worshiped on their thrones before God. I'm losing my voice, guys. So, does it make any sense that the proclamation is being made that the kingdom of the world is now belong to the Lord, not to Satan anymore? It's because he's put all those guys in the pit of hell. And he's in charge right now, although he's letting all these guys out to wreak havoc on those who are left behind because they refuse to believe in the truth of Jesus Christ. So that's why this little bit is here. It doesn't make any sense. And then you jump right into Revelation 12. You got the woman going into the wilderness for 1,260 days. That's on my timeline. Of course, the child is caught up to heaven. There's war in heaven. So, anyway, I think I've gone through this. Here's the woman, the witnesses, then we have the abomination. Of course, the antichrist is resurrected here. So, guys, with that, I'm going to drop off here, try to regain my voice. And with that, please download these documents, study them yourself. And with that, have a great day, and God bless you.